Good Wednesday morning, guys. I'm Jerry Miller. Welcome to Real Talk with Keith Smith. Thank you kindly for joining us. Live in downtown Charlottesville, Virginia, on a show that's broadcasted across every social media platform alive today. Today's program is presented by Ross Mortgage and our friend Scott Morris. We have a dynamic platform where you, the viewer and listener, can offer thoughts and perspective to the panel. Judah Wickhauer, the director, let's go to the fourth shot and weave the studio camera into the mix, and let's welcome Keith Smith, Scott Morris, and today's guest, Tim Pascarella, the president of Ross Mortgage. Good morning, guys.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Good morning.
Morning, gentlemen. It is an excellent day to be above the mud and talk to you guys. So, Scott, I'm going to let you introduce your guest, and then we'll kick it off from there.
Thank you. So, Tim, President, Ross Mortgage, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you found your way into wonderful Charlottesville this morning.
I did find my way into wonderful Charlottesville. So my name's Tim Pascarella. I've been with a company out of Southeast Michigan called Ross Mortgage Corporation for 20 years. I'm a unicorn in the industry. I've never switched companies. It's been the company I've been with forever. I find my way here through Scott Morris, who's our branch manager out of Culpeper, Virginia. And excited to be here, excited to be in Virginia. And Scott's been with us for a couple years and has done a great job, and I'm here visiting him.
So tell us about the 20 years. That's super impressive, man.
Yeah.
I've been in this business since '87, and that I did not know that about you because I didn't read your bio close enough, apparently. 20 years. So talk about that. What is that like to be in one firm in this industry? Because you've seen a lot of stuff.
Yeah, a lot of markets.
I have. So it's interesting. I mean, I owe a lot to our CEO, Tim Ross. He's started the company. It's actually founded in 1949, but let me clarify, Tim is not 180 years old. It was a 1983 startup with him and his father, and then they bought 3 years later. They bought another company and took on their founding date. But for 40 years, I started as a loan officer assistant, and it was in 2003. And quickly, the story goes is that I accidentally got a pay stub from the person I was assisting. And when I saw how much he was making, I immediately went into the office and said, hey, I don't quit per se, but I want to be a loan officer.
Yeah, good for you.
So I was a loan officer for 4 or 5 years. Then I actually ended up partnering with that person who hired me in for about 8 years. We ran a $250 million branch, originations a year. And then I always joke with Tim and say that I became president because I was the only one left. So I was here. He had to choose me. So, but no, it's been a great run in an industry that I like to say is very unloyal. Mortgage loan officers come, go constantly in our industry. I've been pretty loyal, and it's treated me really good. So I like where I'm at, and I like the company.
Love it. Different markets you've seen. I mean, look at the last 3 years. We've probably seen, 3-4 different markets in the last 3 years alone? I mean, we're in a changing market right now.
Yeah.
30, 45 days ago, rates we were getting in the 5s. Now we're flirting with 7.
Yeah.
You talked about it in an 8-day spread.
8-day spread.
What, 3/4 of a point?
3/4 of a point.
In 8 days? I mean, this is a roller coaster ride here. You have seen 20 years of markets.
Yeah.
So I want to hear your macro or broad perspective, don't panic. They will write. Show us yours on that topic.
Well, I mean, a lot of people want to take us back to 2008. But I think the reason people want to take us back to 2008 is because March of 2022, the business just shut off. And I think that in 2008, it shut off for a completely different reason. The housing market is set up, I can't even explain, it would take too long, but so much better today.
In 2008, you couldn't get anyone to buy a house, and in 2022, you couldn't get anyone to sell a house.
Right. Because
in 2004 and 5 and 6, this cup of coffee I'm holding in my hand could have bought a $500,000 house.
Yeah, well, exactly.
Your friend Brian, is it View, giving you some props, the president and COO of FinLocker? Giving you some love on the show right now. Ask him questions, give him props. Go ahead.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So I think the biggest thing is the equity. I really do. I think the biggest thing is the equity, and then we're coming off those rates, right? So in 2008, no one had equity, and the market crashed. So therefore, you had an enormous housing crisis. We don't have a housing crisis. What we have is
We do, actually.
We do, but it's a
An
different
inventory
crisis.
crisis.
We have an inventory crisis. And then today, I think, you're sitting, in 2008, you had the least amount of equity in the history of the United States, and in 2022, you have the most amount of equity in the history of the United States. And you're coming off a 2-year span where rates were in the mid-2s to mid-3s. No one wants to get rid of it. So I think that the biggest crisis you have today is inventory. That's it. These rates don't scare me at all. I think rates could go down to 4.5 right now, and you're still not all of a sudden going to see a ton of houses on the market.
So we talk about on the show all the time, and I'll let Scott jump in because he's kind of predicting that by the end of the year we'll be below.
Oh, he has predicted that. Yeah, he has predicted that.
I'm trying to set him up.
I'll stand on that. I still stand on that. I mean, if we can go from literally where, and I've said this now, it's been 3 weeks, but 3 weeks ago, we were quoting a 700K well-qualified VA purchase in the low 5s to where today that's, you're almost at 7%, mid-6s. 1.5% interest swing in 3 weeks. In 8 days, we've moved 0.75%. The market is absolutely starving. The thirst is real for some sort of news to turn this around. Mm-hmm. So I think it doesn't take a lot. And one of the things that, so I was listening to this morning, so we're not getting the movement in inflation that the Fed has hoped that they would see. But the Fed is, I've also come on the show and repeatedly said the beatings will continue until inflation improves. So what we're beginning to see is some takeaway to the available money pool. So what I mean by that is we put 30% of the available money in the market in the course of 18 months. Now, in the past 6 months, we've seen 3 to 5% of that money come off the table. So the more that we see of that dissipate, I think there's a lag there. Inflation didn't happen as quickly as everybody said it's coming, and then you've got a bunch of politicians who said no, free money is real, we can do this forever, and then it turned out to shift, we cannot do this forever.
Oh, did you read my notes?
I'm here for you, bro.
I love you.
And now that we're starting to see that money dissipate from the pool, and we're starting to see some improvement to the supply chain process, it's a matter of time. The rate increases don't have a direct effect in.
So I'm going to give numbers to prove that. To your point, on February 10th. So I take a look at these weekly snapshots going 7 days back.
Sure.
On February 10th, there were 62 homes that went into pending. They went into contract. I'm looking at it right now. 7 days back from today was 82. We're up 20 units, and that's 4. We're up 20 units in whatever number of days it is from the 10th to now, which the rates were lower in February 10th than they are now. So that's the proof. And oh, by the way, inventory and 210 was 74 units. We only have 56 on the market right now.
Yeah. So
inventory is dropping.
20 up, nothing came back on.
Volume is increasing.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't rates, guys.
No.
This is folks having to move, having to make life changes to go ahead and
I
do
think
that.
Reagan was the one. Wasn't Reagan the one who said we're the government, we're here to help? Wasn't that a Reagan
That was
line?
Ronald Reagan.
That was Ronald Reagan.
Don't let me go down the road because I actually met him.
Ronald Reagan.
I'll go down the whole
I'm not
thing.
going to go politics on you, but I am going to
No.
go government on you. And in 2008, so Scott said it best, right? In 2008, you couldn't get anyone to buy.
Yeah.
And in 2022, you can't get anyone to sell. The difference was, in 2008, the government could help, and they did.
Yeah.
Obama came out and he said, hey, I think it was $9,000 to add dollar for dollar rebate anybody who buys a home.
Yep.
That's real money. And at the time, home prices were so cheap, and $9,000 was a lot of money. So they helped it so much. I mean, that was a huge helping from the government, right? The government can't really do anything to get sellers to sell, right? So
2.75 right here. So why we talked about this
Yeah.
on Monday. What's the motivation at 275? Now he's going to say you got divorce, you got death, you got change of job, loss of job, all the life issues,
life will make you.
circumstances.
Life can make you change. That's about
But
it.
if I don't have any of those,
You're staying put.
do I stay put? Do a lot of people think that way?
Yes.
So what could the government
But that's
do?
going to hurt inventory. That right there is
yeah.
going to
Oh, for sure.
100%.
We played a little what-if game yesterday. What could the government do? Could the government do something with how they're taxing? Could they?
Yes. Yeah, I think the one thing the government could do, which I don't know how much this would help, but capital gains is ridiculous. And if they alleviated capital gains, at least, I mean, think about it. There was a 8-month period there.
Real estate associated capital gains.
Yeah, 100%. There was a 8-month period there where investors were stealing all the homes, right? They were outbidding everyone and getting all the homes. Give them a reason to sell. Right now the capital gains is so bad. They
So
have
you're
no reason.
saying capital gains is hurting the investor stock that was bought in the last 24 because there's no incentive for them
And
to put
he's
it.
saying the investor stock, these guys are sitting on stacks of paper.
Yeah.
But they don't want to
this-
sell because of the exposure.
So this is why micro markets matter, right? So up in Michigan and Arizona or in Phoenix, I would say yes. Our marketplace, we don't have a large investor pool of that. They're you don't see the street here. You don't see these. Now you have like small investors have 1, 2, 3, 4, that kind of thing, but you don't have these huge investor pools where they're buying hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of units. And
This follow-up question, though, and you're 100% right, Keith. Follow-up question. If rates do drop and we get into the 4s like he's predicting, is that good for the market? That's going to create a bonanza.
It won't hurt. It won't hurt for a lot of reasons. So there's a couple things going on right now. So, anytime you go down to the 4s, it won't hurt. You got to bring back impulse buying, and you have zero impulse buying. I bought the house I'm in today. I bought in 2012. My wife and I were not even looking for a house. Literally, we're not. I'm in the business, so I always get houses sent to me that are on the market. We found the house. The rate I think we had was in the low 4s, and the rate wasn't even a question for me. It was an impulse buy, 100%. We didn't need a new house. We weren't looking for a new house, but the house came up. We liked it. It was in the area that we really like, and we bought it. At 7%, people tell people to stop sending them listings. Like, we don't even want to look at it because even if we find something we like, we don't want to pay 7% for it. Which by the way, I'm sorry, but mid-6s and below are great rates.
My first house, 6
great
and an 8.
rates. And I hate being
that
guy. I hate being that guy that says that, but it's the absolute truth.
I'll be the other guy.
18.
My first house was 18%.
Right.
So,
And you were happy.
I was happy to get it.
I had an ARM for 6 3/4 the first house I bought. An ARM for 6 3/4, and I was fine with it. It was fine.
And I refied a couple of times.
Yeah,
sold it.
absolutely.
But the difference is today the national media is just brainwashing people.
1,000%.
And it's we cannot get away from the freaking headlines and the news cycle. And that that takes, I'm choosing my words carefully here. The average Joe and average Betty gets influenced by that at significant degrees.
I was at a business networking event last night at Dairy Central, and Dino said to say hi, by the way.
What's up, Dino?
Did not know he opened up a pasta place.
Yeah.
It was freaking awesome. So if you guys are listening, want to go out to Dairy Central, go see Dino at his pasta place. It's actually handmade. It's really, really good stuff.
There we go.
I'm half Italian, so I needed to go there. The other half was Irish. I went to the bar first. Then I went.
Pascarella isn't Mexican.
I was going to say, Italian right here on set.
From the Bodos post earlier this week motivated me to we're gonna grab Bodos for lunch.
There we go.
I'm gonna help that $32 million
$20 ticket average.
Yeah.
Michael Sendor giving them props. T.J. Barker, Andrea Galavsky, Benjamin Wright, Robert Harris, Trisha Latta. I mean, good Lord. The list continues here. Popular guy.
So
Darren Corder says your higher rates were on a house that cost $100K. It's all relative, Keith. That's true.
It was 18% at $150K, and somebody do the math. It was really smart. That was a
150. You'd have bought a nice house in 1980.
Yeah, well, I got expensive.
Champagne taste over there.
Your budget, but expensive.
Champagne taste.
But this networking event I was at last night, it's all CEOs and folks that these are pretty smart business folks. To Jerry's point, are watching the boob tube. There's a 60s, 70s.
Oh, yeah.
It's on right here.
Watching the boob tube, and was like, is interest rates killing the business? And then I pull up my thing and I go, no,
it's not.
It's not.
It's not. We were just watching it Jerry and I were just watching it right before we went live, and I hate the headlines. The headlines kill me. Fear of inflation. Well, I mean, we're a year and 4 months into this. Where's the fear? There is no fear. I mean, but they're going to keep telling us that it's
United
scary.
Van Lines does and they go back to 1972. They calculate and they do a study who's moving in and who's moving out and why. You said Michigan, right?
Yes.
So you have a 57.8% outbound move in Michigan and only a 42.7% inbound thing. The number one reason for people moving inbound was 43% for family. The number one reason for moving outbound was also family at 33%.
Yeah, COVID didn't help the state of Michigan. The way we handled COVID did not help the state of Michigan.
That's your home base, Michigan?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it did not help. It did not help the state when it came to moving out. That went way up over the last couple of years. Not way up, but it went up over the last couple of years. And the other thing that's hurting the move in is we live and die by the cars. Obviously, we're the Motor City in Detroit. We're the Big Three, where Big Three resides. When the Big Three's not on a hiring spree, you're not going to have a lot of move-ins. So we kind of live and die with the car industry. The funny thing too is we're also the mortgage mecca of the world. I mean, you got Rocket and UWM, at each other's throats, and we're just little Ross Mortgages in between them in Troy, Michigan. So you got Rocket in Detroit, you got UWM in Pontiac, and then here's little Ross Mortgage. We just watch the ball go back and forth. We just grab our popcorn and watch.
Yeah, but you guys are getting some huge battery plants. I was reading something about.
Oh, yeah.
About you guys are really.
We just got one in Jackson.
So Virginia, moving inbound, top 3 reasons. Retirement at 16%, family at 43%, job at 30%. My quick math, roughly 89% of the buyers coming in and moving into this area was for those big 3 reasons. Cost was only 7%. So cost of mortgages and all that right stuff. Outbound was only 2%.
Well, the people
2%.
retiring, moving in, are moving in from northern states with higher
doing
price
that.
points. That's been the case for 40 years.
So Scott and I are both Marines, and he had the misfortune.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you. He had the opportunity of swinging a hammer for me at one point in time. But most of the people that we built homes for, hold on one second, we built homes for were folks coming out of the Northeast corridor.
Sure.
That's always been the case. It always will be the case. Get the hell away from $30,000 a year taxes down to something that is ridiculous.
Well, so talking about $30,000 in taxes. So let's go back to the investor selling a property that, let's say they bought a house for $500,000. It's appreciated 20%. So they got $100,000 in equity in a 24-month period. They go to sell that. They're going to be 30G in capital gains. They're going to have another $30,000 in fees, costs, taxes to get rid of it. So they're really they're $40,000, and then. So what is that takes away their motivation?
It's not worth it. It's not worth it. I mean,
No.
I was just talking about this with you. I got a rental at the villas at Southern Ridge. No debt on it. I would be inclined at 1031. I can't 1031 because there's nothing to buy. And what you just outlined, why would I sell and just keep it and bank it or put it in the markets? It's just not worth it to me.
You're not going to pay capital gains on that at this point.
Is it past the threshold? What's the threshold?
You've had the thing for a while.
Is it 2 years for the peak capital gains? Is that what it is?
I believe so.
We're going down a little
I'm
bit.
not a tax professional.
I'm about to say, we're going down a little slippery slope because it really depends on the rest of your portfolio and so forth and so on. I would just automatically assume.
Talk CPA.
Yeah, it's
Talk
called the
CPA.
CPA.
Well, people are giving answers right now on the feed here. People are saying they're tax professionals on the feed giving answers. They're saying, how long have you had it? And like Keith said, it depends on what else you have in your real estate holdings.
Yeah.
So right there, that's a good answer right there from Spencer. Here's a good question for Tim. We have a macro voice on the show. You're the president of Ross Mortgage. What scares you about what could happen in 2023, and what gives you positive momentum of what could happen in 2023? If you're giving a counsel and advice to the branch managers and leaders like Scott, your lieutenants, what advice are you offering?
I mean, what scares me about 2023 is, oddly enough, it doesn't have much to do with the real estate market, but it has everything to do with people building wealth, and that's the credit card debt we're in.
Oh, amen, brother.
That is what scares me. We are in the largest amount of credit card debt, and I don't know if it's a history.
And that flip happened
It's
fast.
a top in American
I don't
history.
want to. Is it the top in
Yeah,
American
top in
history?
American
Okay,
history.
I mean
It went from the lowest to the highest.
that scares the heck out of me because here's my real macro reason as to why, and this is an opinion. I want to start off by saying this is an opinion. People saved so much cash during COVID. I mean, when you're stuck in your house, you're not vacationing, you're not buying gas, you're not really doing anything. You have nothing to do with your money but save it, right? Then you creep out of COVID, and the average Joe has more cash than they normally have, so they start living a little better. And they start living a little better for about 10, 12 months. Then all of a sudden they go back into real reality where they have normal bills, normal gas, normal everything, but yet they still like the little taste they had for 12 months, so they don't really have the money to do it, so they start taking out credit card debt. Then while all this is happening, the Fed raises these rates in an absurd amount. And everybody comes to me and says, oh my gosh, the Fed's raising rates, the Fed's raising rates. It does have an influence on mortgage rates, but it really doesn't. The average $10,000 credit card 2 years ago was $127, I think. Don't quote me on any of this stuff, but it's really close if I'm wrong. It's like $490 today. So inflation goes up, the cost of eggs go up, the cost of gas goes up, cost of everything goes up, and your credit card bill
Your
tripled.
debt, yeah.
You know, so I think that's the thing
you
that's
said 10,000.
is light.
It's light.
Yeah.
By
Yeah. So now multiply that by 3, right? That's what scares me. What doesn't scare me, well, what actually encourages me is I believe that rates are going to do this. However, what happened in the last 8 days is going to happen. Rates are not going to go 20/20 on us and start here and go down here with no bumps.
Sure.
We've got a quick bump in the road here in the last eight days to 2 weeks. And I believe that the rates are ultimately going to be in the low 5s by June. And I believe we're going to get there by going down and then bumping up and then going down lower than we were before we bumped up and then continue. But we're going to have these constant bump ups. And why that encourages me is because the amount of equity people have.
So-
I do believe people will tap into their equity, and some people have no choice on how to tap into their equity other than to sell their home. So that's what encourages me a little bit, is people will want that equity, you know?
Well, I hope you're right. I've been quoted on the show to say I think it's going to not help. I don't think you're going to see inventory creep up that much. I think you're going to see the buyer pool just get deeper on it. And without solving this inventory issue, and I'm going to throw this to you, put your crystal ball. We have some crystal balls here. We don't have the camera set up. So in your opinion, you're big picture guy.
I hope he doesn't ask me how to fix the inventory.
Get ready. Get ready.
So how do you like the Mets?
He's got family watching. Michael's watching.
Yeah. I mean, look, you have, look, here you go. Here's your magic wand.
Okay.
Wave your magic wand, fix inventory. What does that look like?
Oh, you're not going to like my answer, America.
Go down the government road, if that's what
Yeah,
you think.
I mean,
No.
Is it the red tape road? Is that the road?
Okay, so
Not everyone should be a homeowner road? Is
nope,
that?
nope.
What are you going to do?
No, now
The-
I'm interested.
you want to fix
You got
it?
6 states watching you right here,
Oh, great.
including your son-in-law in Connecticut. Harry Tyson, I'll get to your question.
A recession. A
yeah.
recession.
Oh, yeah.
A recession, because here's the bottom line. If you're just asking me to solve the housing problem, I would never put us into a recession, and I wish ill will on no one. But the bottom line is, with this much equity, if someone were to lose their job or not be able to pay, the 2008, the answer was to walk away from the home.
Yeah.
And that was a horrible thing.
That's not gonna
right?
happen.
That's not going to happen. There's too much equity.
Yeah.
The ultimate reason is you got to sell your house to get that equity, because you can't cash it out because you don't have income.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, if we get in a recession, you will see a ton of houses go on the market, because people will need that equity, they'll need that money, and they'll go rent. They'll take that money and go rent until they get a job. So unfortunately...
Well, that's what the Fed's trying to do. They're trying to force us into a recession.
But that's
Yes.
going to happen. It's going to take, just like everything else, it's going to take longer to get there than expected. Because the people who get in trouble aren't going to reach out for help when they start getting in trouble. They're going to have to go the full range of losing the house to where it's actually being foreclosed on, or turned into a short sale before they're actually able to get out.
So-
The people who are in trouble won't actually pull the chute. They won't reach out to a realtor. They'll bury their heads because that's just what happens.
So whoever's listening or watching
Man.
this show,
Let's hope that doesn't happen.
I don't think that's going to happen.
I don't think it happens.
Look,
There's too much equity.
At one point in the time of great unpleasantness, as a gentleman by the name Neil Williamson has coined it, and I've stole it, about 2008. You're 100% right. There's too much equity.
Mm-hmm.
Unemployment is zero. It's just not going to happen. We're not going to go back to. I think at one point in time there was more foreclosures going on than like divorces in the country. Some huge numbers in the millions happening across the board. Now it's in the tens and 20,000.
It's been flipped completely on its head.
Yeah.
In 2008, there was 12.3 million homes for sale and 3.3 buyers. In 2022, there was 15.1 buyers and about 4 million homes for sale.
That's a great stat. Right
I mean, that is
Love that
completely
stat.
flipped on its head.
And as a recovering developer and builder, we're about 5, depending on who you talk to. Some economists say 3, some economists say 6. Split the middle, call it 5. 5 million new construction units short just to keep up with demand.
Oh, yeah.
And,
new construction's a big problem right now.
When 25% of all new construction is due to red tape, and I'm a huge proponent of turning red tape into green tape, it does make a difference. It does help move projects along, which then helps the inventory. More new construction helps the existing, and
So
it just helps the whole ecosystem move up.
So you're picking up what I'm laying down when I say let us get our lumber from Canada and not Germany.
Well,
That would be an enormous savings.
That whole tariff thing's been going on since Reagan.
I know.
It's not going away anytime
No, I know.
Michael's watching. That's family to you?
Is it Michael Pascarella?
Uh-huh.
Yes.
A bigger
their-
picture, he says, from a director of a nonprofit, is when rates go up, donated money from those banks gets lower. We build low-income houses, and a lot of our funding comes from local banks.
Yeah.
The fewer houses that are selling, the less money that comes back to the local area. It's a great point.
That's a great point. The Michael's my brother. He served. He's a retired Army vet. And he works for a nonprofit for homes that if I said it, you guys would know exactly which one it is, and he's the man. So
There we go. I
appreciate
think we
the
know
comment.
which one that is.
So I am a chairperson of a nonprofit affordable housing, so I get it. He's 100% spot on, and it's called Habitat.
Yeah.
yeah, that's right. I think we knew that, Keith.
We can say Habitat. It's okay.
Yeah.
Darren says this for the mortgage guys: make veterans a protected class and help every single veteran who can repay ATR a homeowner. We have 3.6 million living vets in the U.S. and only 19% of veteran buyers use the Virginia benefit. Or the VA benefit, excuse me. I can list an armload of reasons why it kicks all other type of. I said asses. There we go.
Darren, you can't say asses.
No, we can say asses. No problem.
Darren's the man. Darren is a partner, not a partner, but he's a member of the Veterans Mortgage Advisor, which a gentleman out of my company runs. A couple of gentlemen out of my company run, and they are amazing advocates for veterans. They do a lot of VA business. Those guys.
Darren's down in Florida. Is that the
Darren is in Delaware.
Okay.
I think that's the Darren that's talking.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yep.
First-time home buyer. More dubious distinction buying in this market with no inventory and value skyrocketing and rates affordable but getting a little more expensive, or more challenging to buy during peak COVID for the first-time home buyer.
Oh, I think we talked about this before. I think the biggest problem we have is first-time home buyers. I mean, the housing affordability is just.
So you think it's
insane.
harder now than it was
Peak COVID.
18 months ago?
Yeah,
You do.
I do.
I agree with you.
I do because of the prices.
Valuations
Absolutely.
have gone up. There's
Yeah.
no inventory. Now,
But
to Scott's point,
Now
there's no
that
appraisal
they can
gap.
They can go in, make an offer, possibly get some closing cost assistance, depending on where and what they're looking for. Whereas before they were walking into an 18 offer situation, going, "What am I supposed to do here?"
Lower rates, though.
Well, it's 6 one way, half dozen the other. I mean, neither situation is good. But I think it's harder today because you got higher rates and higher values. I mean, first off, in my opinion, first-time home buyers make less. They're making less than $100,000 a year. Go find a house. Go find a house that $80,000 a year, which by the way is good income, can afford. I think that the builders is a huge struggle. I was at a MBA event, the Mortgage Bankers Association, and the head of, I don't even know, whatever, the head of building in America was talking, and he said that, because we asked him, there was like 4 of us that asked him the question, why don't builders want to build
Starter homes.
Affordable homes?
They can't.
And they can't.
Yeah.
They said they have made it so that the margins, that makes no sense.
Well, back to that 25%.
Yeah.
So
Right.
I've got 2 different builders. They're minimum. Well, septic, house, no land, $280,000.
You know
So then whatever the lot's going to be,
The average
Plus.
new
Well, then
build-
you add value. The assessments nationally have gone up astronomically, which makes the dirt more expensive to
Yeah.
buy, and the tax
Right,
rates
but
for
no,
jurisdictions are going up,
Lumber
which makes
is
it
ridiculous.
Cost, just
Yeah.
debt service is higher.
Yeah. The average new construction home, I read somewhere, and I don't know how accurate this was, but the average new construction home in 2022 was $467.
I'm back.
Yeah.
That's insanity.
That's insanity.
That is so
Yeah.
insane.
Right. And then it influences existing construction, drives those values up,
Yeah.
makes everything more expensive, Keith.
So
Yeah, so I was actually doing a little bit of looking because, what we're talking about is the millennial buyer,
yeah.
right? And the millennial buyer, the buyer, I'm trying to get the exact number, so I don't want to misquote it, but there are more millennial buyers in the market
Yeah.
than there's ever been. They're growing.
Ever.
My buyer pool, which is a boomer buyer pool, is slowly decreasing, because we're kind of aging out of the world a little bit on that stuff. So, and it's becoming, I'm going to say something that might not be too popular, but the only reason I'm going to say it is because my daughter, who's a millennial, who's looking to buy in Richmond, and my son-in-law, this is really going to come to generational conflict, generational differences, because I can roll into a home that my daughter's trying
bag
to
of money.
buy with a bag of cash, because
Yeah.
I've been sitting on the home all the time.
Yeah.
And this young couple who's trying to get started, back to what you're talking
They're
about,
gonna struggle.
They're competing against me
They're going to struggle.
to go ahead and do that.
I've been saying this for the last 6 months now. So the
Not
reason
rates,
there's
it's that's going to be the
100%. The reason why there's 15.3 buyers and 3.3 million homes is because we skipped a generation of first-time home buyers, and I don't blame them. So millennials graduated college in 2008 to 2011. So they literally graduated college when the media and the world was telling them that the mortgages are the worst thing in the world. They put us in an economic crisis, a catastrophe. So what motivated them to go out and buy a house? So then all of a sudden they decided to either move back in with mom or dad or rent, right? Well, all of a sudden, for the longest time, rent was a really good deal. Rent was a really good deal in 2012 to
days.
Oh, yeah.
2018,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
It was a really good
So
deal.
we had too much empty housing stock.
Right.
So the
they
rent
started
prices
saving-
were affordable.
Yeah, so they started saving money. So now all of a sudden you fast forward a decade, you got Gen Z coming out of college. They don't even know what 2008 is, right? So they
Worse.
want to buy a house, right? And now you got the millennials all of a sudden coming into the
So
market.
Gen Z is almost matching millennials
Right.
in volume.
Right.
So you've got
You got 2
boomers,
generations
you got
buying a
2
house.
generations.
Yeah, it's insane.
And it's why it's your brother that's in the affordable housing space.
Yes.
He's in the affordable housing space or housing affordability space because he's trying to figure out a way to do that. So my hat's off to him because I'm in that space too
Yeah.
on my volunteer work. It's a lot of hard work to try to do that. But you're spot on, man. This is going to be a generational thing.
Yep.
And we've lost out a couple of potential deals, and the answer is a damn boomer bought it, right?
I know. And they bought it with cash because
They
they
bought it
sold
with
their
cash.
house.
This is from Connecticut, Harry.
My son-in-law.
People didn't just save more money during COVID. They had nothing to spend it on, but a lot of us took forbearance on the mortgage as well. And then that's coming due
Oh yeah.
now. So he highlights that. Jason, go ahead.
Not just forbearance on the mortgage, but all these small business loans were
Oh, yeah.
into forbearance until last November.
Cars.
And and then we are there's more auto defaults now than there ever has been in history. So that's a big leading indicator of the possible recession that we might already be in that we're not in. And
Because they changed the definition.
Right. Right.
so
saying.
I mean, you got a 2-year that is just outrageously upside down with the 10. But all right, all that aside, small businesses, you deal with this on the regular. Food trucks, restaurants, stores.
Anything.
I'm curious to see.
Rebecca's $375.
I see that. Now,
Yeah,
I would think that's
$375K.
more of a profitable business that somebody's actually looking to exit, because they're in a space, especially with CVD and all the things that...
He's making money.
That they're making money.
Yeah.
But you look at small pharmacies, even CVS's in certain areas, they are having an extremely difficult time turning a profit with the way that the current drug prices are set up, and then how they have to unload their front end inventory, along with the labor costs that they're dealing with. So if they can't do it, if CVS can't do it, the mom and pops aren't doing it. And if they took out extra money because they thought they were going to fix their problems with it during COVID, got it in deferment, and now it's coming due, and they're having another shift moment. I'll do it all day, baby.
You can follow me around, by the way.
That it's time to let go. They're going to have to find, they're either going to lose the business, or they're going to have to figure out someone to sell it to.
Let's turn this around a little bit, guys, right? So what can Ross Mortgage do? I got millennial buyers, first-time home buyers. What tools do you have in your tool chest to help my first-time home buyer, my millennial buyer, buy and compete?
So back to when I'm talking about, now's the time where they can go out, find a house, especially if it's been on the market for a little while, and go get some concessions, and we can talk about a 2-1 buy down, which is perfect when we're in an environment like this. If it's something where we as a team know that there's a contractor and a distressed property that's been on, we can go and make some upgrades on something that might not be exactly what they want, but we can go do a 203K, home possible. There's a lot of options that we can do to renovate the home to get them what they want.
So I want to do a specific show
get them in the home they want
with you on the 203K and really walk through that. Because when we did that a couple of weeks ago, my phone rang off the hook. I want more information on 203K. Because, Tim, real estate is 6 things, right? Location, price, features, condition, timing. And then I always say who's on the other side matters. Gets me in a little bit of trouble.
It's true.
It does, actually.
Yeah.
Written notes and stuff like that. But it's true. Well, who's on the other side matters.
Yeah.
So to your point, we're in the right location. The price is the price. The market's going to set it.
Yeah.
It's those 2 features and conditions that we have to start looking at. And the 203K program is great for that. And actually, this is something that my daughter and we're all going to be talking about, because in Richmond, where they want to buy and what they want to spend, we're going to have to fix something up, or we're going to have to change it.
So now you're talking about my baby, the 203K. So during the distress time of 2011 and 12, Ross Mortgage was the #1 203K lender in the state of Michigan, #5 in the Midwest. I did over 200 in 2011. So
talk about the benefits. What's the good thing?
I mean, the biggest benefit in a market like this is that most of the houses that are being sold right now that are selling fast are the turnkey, right?
Yeah, got it.
Millennials, I love them. I got nothing against them. I don't know a lot of them that are swinging hammers and painting walls, right? If there's anyone out there, don't yell at me. It's just the facts, right?
It's just my opinion.
Yeah, it's just my opinion. But the biggest thing,
and for the ones for the handful that are, they're doing it on TikTok and showing it to everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. We're bragging about.
I'm going to tell you a true story.
So my point is that when you're stuck with inventory like this, nobody wants to look at the crappy house, right? Well, my thing is absolutely look at the crappy house, right? There is renovation lending out there where they'll not only give you a loan to buy the house, but they'll give you a same 30-year fixed rate loan in order to fix the house up to almost, as long as it appraises, unlimited amount of money. And it is an awesome program. And I think it is something that Scott and Ross Mortgage can really do to help the area for these distressed properties, finding the right contractor and all that good stuff.
So that's why trusted partners matter.
Yep.
And Scott brings those trusted partners, because you need some trusted partners to get through that. I'm going to ask you a question. And then I'm
scared when he does this.
I know.
I'm
4 years of doing this.
This was not rehearsed.
I'm setting you up for something that I want the story to talk about.
Sure.
So what skill or talent you don't currently possess that you wish you did? So what skill or talent that you don't currently possess that you wish you did?
Oh, I wish I was you. I wish I could build homes. 100%. 100%.
So I asked that question quite a bit, and I was giving a presentation to the Virginia Governor's Housing Conference, and I was the old dude, and there were 6 or 7 20-somethings, maybe 30 years old, and I asked that question. Most people answer, play an instrument, speak foreign languages. Every single one of them said, I'm going to exaggerate a little bit, I want to be able to open up a hood of a car and know what I was looking at.
Yeah.
So every one of these young millennials...
So do most technicians that are working on it.
Trying to make a
Opinion
point,
only.
trying to make a point. But to your point, is that's what I heard, right?
Yeah.
How do I fix a squeaky door? How do I do... Well, they have no idea how to do that. When we were all coming up, our dads taught us, or our moms, or we went out to work, or whatever, we did this. So it was an aha moment for me that I realized you're spot on.
Yeah.
That they don't know how to do it. And that's why they want to hire a trusted advisor like Scott to help them manage through that process.
And you don't need to hire me, I'm free. I will work for you for free until you buy a house.
Right. So there is one thing that's happening, the government's doing, and it's happening today. It's actually going to be announced, I think, in 2 hours. The FHA loan.
Yep.
The FHA, the Biden-Harris administration is announcing today, I think at 1 o'clock, that they are almost cutting the FHA mortgage insurance, the monthly mortgage insurance, by almost half. It's going from 0.85 to 0.50, I think, or
So why is that
5.5.
Why is that important?
Because of payment. So to give you an example, that is the equivalent, I think I did the math before the show, that's the equivalent of almost 3/8 in rate. So think about that, right? So if you're at 6.5% with today's mortgage insurance, I always blend the payments, always, because FHA has mortgage insurance. It's not going away. It is what it is.
Sure.
That is literally like taking that same loan and putting it down to 6 1/8.
And to give that a little more clarity to anybody listening as far as what that means in numbers, for the average FHA loan, it's going to lower your payment about $70 a month.
Yep.
The way you explained is the best. It takes off a little bit off of this interest rate,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because people are potentially, because they're watching the boob tube, freaking out about interest rates. The volume of sales aren't showing that. It's just what you're seeing on the television. But
And
if
I
you can,
think-
anything you can do to shape points, the 2-1 buy
Yeah.
down, the
Yeah.
FHA is going to help you.
I think people need to get off the whole rate thing. I mean,
Yeah.
when I first bought my first home, you guys told me what your rates were. I think I guessed I think it was 6.75 on an ARM. I'm not that positive about it because all I cared about was what was my payment.
Yeah, monthly payment.
That's
So
all I cared about.
thank you for saying
That's
that.
all I cared about. What
You've
was
been
my
doing-
payment and how
you've
much
been-
do I owe at closing? That's
You've
it.
been doing this for 20 years.
Yes.
How many conversations you've had with clients on the other side of the table was about rates? It was always about
Payment.
payment.
Matter of fact, up until this year might be the first year that rates even come to the equation. I mean, my speech to my pre-approvals used to be, how much do you want to spend a month?
There you go.
If you tell me how much you want to spend a month, I'll tell you what price to look
But
at.
that's going to worsen, and it's because of smartphones and the ubiquitous nature of media right
Sure.
in our hands.
Sure.
I mean, we're 2 taps away from the 90-second soundbite on our phone. We see it on TikTok, Instagram, everywhere. Harry says, for you, does that have an effect on the PMI I'm paying for only putting down 10%? What you were talking about.
No, well, if that was a conventional loan you did, then no. It's only on FHAs, and I'm pretty sure it's only on new FHA loans. I doubt they're going to do anything for the current FHA loans. But that's also for those of you who are in FHA loans. Call your local lender, call Scott, and ask about FHA streamlines, because that could be the difference between doing an FHA streamline and not. And an FHA streamline is just a real simple way to refinance and lower your rate on an FHA loan.
So let's take about 30 seconds and give a quick primer of the difference between a conventional and FHA.
So conventional mortgage insurance, you're around 35.
Around
Yeah.
35 to around 35%. 0.35 is the factor
Is the
in which they
multiple.
compute the mortgage insurance, and it used to be 0.85 for FHA, and it's going to 0.5.
So let's say an FHA loan, because it's government backed, price and credit is good. Let's say the rate is actually a little better than what conventional pricing is. So with the lower multiple for the mortgage insurance or the mortgage insurance premium, you could actually have a lower payment with the FHA product as opposed to the conventional product, whereas today that's probably not the case.
So, gentlemen, correct me if I'm wrong. Conventional is kind of a more market-driven product, right? FHA is a federal-driven product, right? Is that a fair statement?
They're both backed.
market-driven.
Yeah,
They're backed, but
Yeah.
but the FHA, you can do zero down, right, or close to 0.
3.5%.
3.5%
Yeah.
on that, which is close to 0. Maybe not the case on conventional.
So if you were to ask me that question, I
Yeah.
would tell you that it really doesn't have anything to do with the market. It's credit driven.
Got it.
I think the two programs are credit driven. Typically, it's not all the time, but typically, better credit steers towards conventional, lower credit steers towards FHA.
Thank you for
No.
that. Thank you for that.
When you talk about zero down, FHA is 3.5. However, we at Ross do have a product that has a second to where you can get into a home with zero down using a first and a second.
So if you do that, plus now with the new, what did we say, 0.38? How much of a point?
0.55 factor for mortgage insurance.
Right, getting better, so it drives that interest rate down, which then drives your payment a little bit down, which now puts you in a good position.
It's a big deal. It was done 8 years ago. Exactly what they did was done 8 years ago by Obama, but it was done late in his term. And then Trump came in and kiboshed it. Literally, it was like the first thing he did when he got in office. And now here we are back again doing the same thing. So the FHA, the Federal Housing Administration, they've never been stronger. So it was only right for them to do this. They raised it during 2008, which rightfully so. They lost billions of dollars in foreclosures and all that stuff. So rightfully so, they needed to do it. But their insurance portfolio has never been stronger, and it was the right thing for them to do was to cheapen it and make it less.
So I'm looking at the chart. Roughly, millennials are over 60% of prospective buyers that are actively searching for homes right now. It's about 65%. Gen Z is around 45%. I'm reading a bar chart, so I'm rounding it off a little bit.
Yeah, because they're all getting married.
These are two huge numbers of buyers out there. Baby boomers are below 40% right now.
That doesn't surprise me.
How do we get the medium and small builders back in the market?
If I had the answer to that, I'd be a lot better off.
I mean, we talked about that frequently. So
Last Friday,
you know,
last Wednesday.
yeah, land. How do we get them? How do we get them something to build on? And then how quickly through which municipality are they building in? Can we get through the red tape?
So I chair a land trust. So what a land trust does is we retain the ownership of the land and the builder builds on top of that. So we're trying to grow that model, which factors out the land component of it, but the buyer actually buys the unit that sits on top of it, which makes it forever affordable because we do a 99-year lease, which automatically renews in 99 years. So that's a potential program to go ahead and do that. But you know, the reason why dirt is so expensive is because the red tape is so expensive.
Well, and God's not making any more.
Last time I checked, he's not making any more.
He's not making any more.
You're pumped for the rest of the year, Keith. You've said multiple times on the show you see a strong finish to 2023.
Well, not only that, but Gary Keller was just saying this, that he's projecting, right or wrong, that this is going to be the top one of the top 3 to 5 volume years on it. The volume, number of sales are going to go down, but the prices are going up, so the dollar volume is going to be. Look, I've said this on the show numerous times. I've never been so excited about real estate as I am right now, and I've been doing it since '87, because.
Oh, so I was saying, speaking of Keller Williams, and this is nothing against the real estate side, because I'm a huge fan of the company in general. However, they had gone into a little enterprise called KW Mortgage, which they decided they just didn't want to do anymore and sold to Mutual of Omaha.
Yeah, but that, you know, everybody kind of throws a little bit of spaghetti on the wall. So we can go to the Zillow iBuy disaster,
yeah.
you know, on that end of it. I mean, everybody's trying to throw spaghetti against the wall. But the reason I'm so excited about it is because you two guys, right? The pros really show up this time of the year. I mean, you've been through some things in the last 20 years. I have been since '87, and you know, this is when you've got to bring your A game to help people get from point A to point B and make this magic happen. And again, I'll get myself a little bit into trouble here, but you know, I'm going to quote Keller saying that the people that came in the last couple of years, if they don't get their competition game up, they're not going to be around.
No, I think that you know, the loan officer's renewal rate was the worst it's been in 10 years. A lot of people got out of the business. I don't know how the real estate market was, but I'm assuming it's probably similar. I'm very excited about this year. I'm excited because to be selfish for Ross in general, I think we're in a good spot. We've been around for 40 years. We've gone through many different markets. And when a Keller Williams gets sold to Mutual of Omaha, or when companies decide that it's not for them, there's a lot of really good loan officers there that need a place to land, and Ross Mortgage is a great place to start for sure. So we've been around, we stick around. That's kind of our motto. But I do think that the volume will be big because, like you said, it's just the facts. I mean, housing pricing is going to go way up. I am worried, and I'll continue to worry about units. Because there's just
About what, I'm sorry?
units. There's just not enough.
Yeah.
There's just not enough. So that's if I would say there's the only thing that's still worrying me is even in 2009, after the catastrophe, you could totally see the opportunity. Sure. With that many houses on the market, there was tons of opportunity. Now you had to go find the investors that wanted to buy them, but there was tons of opportunity. I don't know how they're going to fix the inventory shortage. I really don't.
I think the four of us won't have that answer.
No, I think we can answer it in a couple years, but I don't know.
I think it's going to be what he said. It's going to be a generation that missed a chance on home ownership, or at least missed a chance on that first rung of equity building to help them into the second rung by selling the first rung.
Yep.
And that's unfortunate. That's extremely unfortunate. I don't see it being solved. Jason Howard's trying to solve it on the feed with a question that's specific for Tim. He said, nationally, are you seeing any programs that are helping subcontractors or people getting into subcontracting work, like HVAC, electrician, or the trades? We have a significant shortage nationally. Is Tim seeing anything from his travels from other states that are doing this well? It's a great question.
No, I think it's a huge issue in our area is that the retirement of good tradespeople, and the retirement is outweighing the entry for good trades. The only.
There's no chat GPT for tradespeople.
No,
right, and that drives up the cost of housing. Because if
Yes.
there's less labor, that labor can command more money
Yes.
hourly, so the
Yes.
small builder, his margin shrinks.
Yes,
Which
absolutely.
sucks.
Absolutely.
And then he has to raise the price to make even some money.
I tell my son's friends, he's 15 years old, I tell him all the time, there is
Being an electrician?
nothing wrong with being an electrician.
Right.
You are going
Or
to
a
make
plumber.
a ton of money.
Average,
Yeah.
I just
ton of
Googled it.
money.
The average age of a plumber is 55.
That's
Right.
insane. That is insane.
And plumbers can make bank.
Huge. Huge.
And no student debt. You're not coming out $250,000 in the hole if you go to college, a 4-year school. You work as an apprentice from day one, and you're making money while going to school as a plumber, as opposed to paying someone to learn.
I'll make
And
someone $1 million right now because I won't do this, but it'd be an amazing thing to do is open a staffing company for trades. If you opened a staffing company for trades
Yeah,
right
but you
now.
got to have somebody
But
to
you got to be
staff
able to
it.
train them.
Well,
you got to be able to train
you
them.
gotta have people to fill the staffing orders.
You want
Yeah.
people willing to be trained to staff up to
I
that.
think
And
the
this
$1 million company, maybe the $100 million company, is a franchise school of apprenticeship for
Oh, yeah.
trades, where you open up one of these schools in every market. It's like the ECPI of trades,
Yeah.
or the University of Phoenix of the trades.
Yeah.
You just do one national, put one in each market.
So my wife is European. My wife is from Austria. And in Europe, in Austria in particular, because I know it well, they actually do what Jerry's talking about.
Yeah.
It's a government subsidized
So
training
that's
program.
there's the rub. Is one, how do you get it paid for? Because these things exist. They exist in the auto industry. You've got J Sarge out towards Richmond, who does a ton of trade related education. But the problem is, for the cost, J Sarge is probably the best. When you get into the specialty, the privately owned ones, they're paying, they're $30,000, $40,000 out of pocket to get through this, and nobody shows up.
So my nephew in Europe, right, in high school, had to make a choice, beginning of high school. Do I want to go the college route or the vocational route? He went the vocational route. They trained him. He's a master gas pipe fitter, right? Got out of high school, went for a company on come on, help me out, oil company in Europe, and he's making multiple six figures.
Yeah.
And oh, by the way, only works about
And not
6
to
months a
discount K-Tech here in Albemarle. K-Tech is a fantastic facility. They've got
which is now owned by Charlottesville.
they do a great job with getting technicians of many different trades into their fields.
You know what the problem is today's teenager or impressionable mind would rather be
An influencer?
would rather do exactly what we're doing right now than rolling up their sleeves.
There's
Or ask the question.
And we're doing it right now, Scott.
And we spent 30 years telling people that if you went into the trades, you were a failure and you have to go get a degree in basket weaving to do anything with your life. Or even better, how we've talked about how the cost to be a teacher is so detrimental. You've got to have a master's degree in order to go earn $60,000. You've got to go 6 figures into debt that you're never going to pay back. In order to earn $60,000 a year. It's a joke.
That burns me. I paid all mine back.
I mean,
I paid for mine during college.
Look at the people who
I was a waiter.
that work in mental health. They've got to be a certified therapist. They've got to get master's degrees, and they're going $200K ish in debt to work it to get abused in the UVA health system by patients and staff to make $60,000 a year. It's a joke.
Multiple viewers and listeners saying this. Take Todd Rath, who owns Blue Toad Hard Cidery in Nelson County. He says, I was an honors student in high school and college, interested in engineering. I was told by guidance counselors that the trade school was not for me. And he blames guidance counselors for a generation of students not getting into the trades. Because societal norms, to Scott's point, was four-year college, student loan debt. This is the rite of passage. This is how you rise the professional totem pole. So now we need kids to go to trades, but they would rather make money on a screen doing what we're doing than doing hard work and rolling up their sleeves.
But I think the problem, the problem is the algorithms on these social media platforms tell them that.
For sure.
I mean, here's the thing. Your percentage of success, if you go into a trade school, your percentage for success is like 80%. You have an 80% chance of going to learn how to freaking be a carpenter and actually being a carpenter and being successful and getting paid doing it. Your percentage of success of being an influencer is 0.00001%.
There's legitimately one in a 300,000 person market that's monetized and is running the influencer model successfully, and you're sitting next to him.
Right.
Okay, you're sitting next to him. There's one in a 300,000 person market that's doing it for profit.
So,
and think about that.
And then the other, for the ones that do find some elements of success, is how long can they maintain it?
Right.
15 years and counting so far, knock on wood, okay?
But all you got to do is make one bad comment.
Oh,
you gotta
for sure.
You can be woked.
I know firsthand.
You are no stranger.
He's exactly right.
Stirring the pot a little too much.
He's exactly right. He's 100% exactly right.
So I'm gonna be the old man at the table.
This is blowing up the feed right now. Go ahead, Keith.
I'm gonna be the old man at the table and bring up my father, Lenny Smith. My father told me in high school, he said, and as I was growing up, if you learn a trade and know how to do something with your hands, you will always be employable. Mm-hmm. Right?
He told me in high school to get the F up and get out of his house.
I knew you were going to say that.
But that was for a very different reason.
Pop watches the show.
They watch the show. My mother and father watch the show, so be careful. But the reality of it is, this phone that I'm holding in my hand isn't going to sweat a pipe. Nope. Isn't going to frame a wall.
Nope.
Right? And there may be some technologies that come up that kind of do all that stuff. Isn't going to install an HVAC system. Isn't going to go ahead and destroy a wall, pointing fingers to him, on that end of it, or do destruction work or construction work, in your case. It's never going to happen. And having a talent, my oldest daughter's a makeup artist in New York City, right? She's a tradesperson. She does physical work in movies.
Your oldest daughter's not named Harry. Your oldest daughter is married to Harry.
Did I say that?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, let me.
Your oldest daughter is married to Harry. Let me. He was unsure. I could tell.
Let me try this one again. Harry, who's my son-in-law, who's married to my oldest daughter, whose name is Yasmina.
Tim's got a lot of new viewers of the show that may not speak Heath. Okay, so they're wondering in Michigan what the hell's going on.
Sorry about that. I have a very specific language. You'll learn that. Bottom line, my oldest daughter is a makeup artist in New York City.
Yeah.
Right.
And she'll always be employed.
This phone, and particularly as, movies are coming up and, this whole now, you can watch a movie on your phone kind of thing. It'll always be there.
Yeah. Neil Williamson speaks to the student debt, and it's a great segue for the Ross guys here. He says those who graduated in 2021 are coming out with borrowed money at a $31,820 clip higher. than in years past. How about student loan debt and how it's impacting housing?
Oh, yeah.
Student loan debt and how you guys look at it, whether it's dollar for dollar or 50 cents on the dollar for the debt, the debt service payment. Anywhere you want to go on that topic, gentlemen.
I mean, I made a complaint 10 years ago to the NBA. I said, you guys, the government is the most ridiculous thing in the world. You told everyone to go to school. You told everyone to get student loans. Then you came out and you made it so that everybody could do what was called income-based payments, right? So you could have $50,000 in student loans, but if your income only basically made it so you could pay about $50 a month, that's all you would have to pay. Yet, which is fine. I mean, whatever. It is what it is, right? Except for the same branch of the government that does housing loans came out and said, if you have $50,000 in debt, we have to hit you with a $500 payment so you can't afford a home. It was the most ridiculous thing in the world. Now, since then, they've reduced it to a half a point, which helps, to be sure. But the student loans is going to stop a lot of people from owning a home. A lot of people, without a doubt.
So the number one thing that I hear when
But that's not a 1-to-1 ratio. You want to quantify that, right? Because if I have student debt of $1, you're not taking the dollar as against it. You're taking a portion of it. Is it correct?
Yeah, it's 1% of a half percent of the total loan amount is your payment that we have to hit you with.
Got it. So
Even though that's not your payment.
I just want
So if
folks
you
to
have
make sure they
100
understand if I owe X dollar.
$100,000 in
We're hitting you with
student
a
debt,
$500
you're getting a
payment.
$500 hit against your
Even if your payment's
debt to
80.
income. So,
That's bogus.
Yeah.
That's bogus.
well, and what's also bogus, even for the income-based repayment, they're still running interest on the loans.
Yeah.
So when
really bogus.
you take a look, your original high credit was $50,000, but now you owe 64 because you only been paying $5 a month, but they been hitting you for 8% for the whole time. That's gross.
And then the
Now-
government comes out and forgives $10,000, and everyone thinks they're doing them a big favor. All they did was forgive the interest that they put on top of your loan you already had anyways.
Right, it was a PR ploy. It was a
It's
PR
total
ploy.
PR move.
Yeah.
They
So-
didn't save anything.
Right.
So my take would be this: if
That's a great take, guys.
in the state of Virginia, we have got and North Carolina also has a fantastic farm system through some local community colleges, PVCC, Nova in Northern Virginia, where you complete 2 years at a certain GPA and you are automatically enrolled in the University of Virginia. So let's say that you've chosen to go to school, you've taken a less cost route, you were a good performer in high school. At PVCC, a lot of the same professors that teach at UVA teach at PVCC, teach at Germanna.
Oh, yeah.
So you've got the option to go in, because at the end of the day, if you're going to get into finance and you're going to get hired by Bloomberg, who farms out of UVA super heavy, they don't care that you went to a community college for the first 2 years. They want the stamp that says UVA on it. So teach your kids, educate your kids, encourage your kids, if they're going to go that route, to go that route. That's the biggest advice I have in that channel.
Yeah,
That's good advice.
Yeah,
It's good advice.
100%.
Erpies did that. It's great advice.
My niece did that.
But as far as student
her
debt,
undergrad at Eastern Michigan. Now she's doing her master's at University of Michigan.
student debt and purchasing a home, I don't know. It's a huge burden. The number one thing when I have a realtor partner tell me they have a client, they're a lawyer, it's like a big deep breath, and I go, are they a Commonwealth attorney or are they working for a private practice? Like, what do they do? Because if you're telling me they've got $250,000 in debt, but they only make $80,000 a year, probably got a problem.
It's fair. That's absolutely fair. 11:21, gentlemen. How about some final thoughts on for the talk show and the viewers and listeners? We got to as many questions and comments as possible on today's show. We appreciate you guys watching and offering that perspective. Keith, my friend.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for coming in. This has been great. Thank you for your guys' sponsorship of the show, because without you guys, we wouldn't be sitting here doing this. So thank you so much for that. And if you need a trusted advisor, reach out to Scott. There's plenty of us on our trusted partners on Keith Smith, a real talk with Keith Smith, to do that. But thank you guys for doing it, man. I appreciate it.
What about you, Scott Morris?
So, in these tumultuous times, as far as real estate rates, inventory goes, trust your team, put a team in place, have a plan, and execute accordingly. And if anyone's giving you advice and you want to run it by somebody else on the team, get on a group call. Let's talk to one another. Let's not, be leaving each other in the dark. Communicate at a high level, and you're going to find success.
Absolutely. I would say this is all about building wealth. Real estate is all about building wealth. And since 1929, the Great Depression, there's been 3 instances since 1929, almost 100 years ago, where the real estate market wasn't a good purchase. It is the standard of building wealth and continue to do so. I mean, there's nothing to be afraid of. Rates shouldn't deter you. Volume shouldn't deter you. The prices shouldn't deter you. If you can afford and be pre-approved to buy a home, call Scott and go start building wealth.
I've got a 21-year running spreadsheet around here. The average appreciation, which includes the time of great unpleasantness, is 5.5% year over year.
You're not going to find that.
Yeah, but it's folks are going to stay in their homes longer, man. It used to be 5 or 6 years. Now it's 10. I'll bet you in the next year or two, you're going to see people staying in homes a lot longer, which doesn't help our inventory issue on that end of it. So thank you, man. Did you have fun?
It, dude. You're great.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Sincerely mean that. Give Tim props, guys, when you see him online. Keith Smith always crushes it. Wednesdays, our friend Scott Morris of Ross Mortgage.
What up?
Judah Wickhauer, we should give props. He's behind
Thanks,
the camera.
Judah.
Real Talk with Keith Smith, guys. The I Love CVille show is up in 1 hour. Stay tuned and take care. Well done, folks. That's how the mic is off.